The Bill Shakespeare Project presents This Week in Shakespeare for the week ending Monday, January 28th, 2019. Hola, Bartophiles! I'm Bill, and welcome to the 226th episode of This Week in Shakespeare, a video release brought to you by the Bill Shakespeare Project. Now we're back from a couple of very busy weeks, but back we are, and this is our weekly opportunity to let you know about the latest and greatest in Willie Shakespeare headlines, coming at you every Tuesday, because, well, Tuesday is news day. The goal here is to hit you with a quick blast, no more than 10-minute stops of Bard-related news. Plus, we'll try to serve up some historical dates for what were the past 7 days of the year. So, this week's news stories included: the New York Times ran a story about the new virtual reality version of Hamlet, called Hamlet 360, Thy Father's Spirit, which was created by Commonwealth Shakespeare Company and Google, and it allows you to roam through Elsinore during the course of the play as the ghost of the old king. It was released Friday by WGBH, an PBS member station in Boston. It will be hosted on the station's YouTube page, where it can be watched in 3D using a VR headset or in 2 dimensions on a desktop or mobile device. Sounds pretty cool. The right-leaning news outlet, the Washington Examiner, ran an op-ed stating that the unofficial Shakespeare Twitter account, is there an official one? Was referencing the president in a recent tweet in which a quote from Macbeth was used. Now, the quote is just a quote, and there's no explicit mention of Trump in it, but the article goes out of its way to show that the president is more Henry V than the usurping Scottish general. Methinks the paper doth protest too much. The Vineyard Gazette ran a piece on the recent performance of Richard III in Martha's Vineyard by Shakespeare for the Masses. It was a Reader's Theatre production, and it sounded pretty interesting. WHYY Public Radio reviewed Romeo and Juliet at the Wilma Theater in Philadelphia, giving it a positive review and saying that it accomplishes making the old play seem new again. The Philadelphia Inquirer also reviewed the production, running through February the 9th, calling it brilliant. Broadway World reviewed Julius Caesar by Nashville Shakespeare Festival, which just closed this past weekend, praising the modern dress production, saying that it succeeds on every level, with some moments of brilliance that transcend expectations. And finally, WBUR in Boston reviewed Othello by American Repertory Theater, running in Cambridge, Massachusetts, through February the 9th. It was a very positive review, and they called the play powerfully subdued. Now let's take a look back on the last 7 days and how they relate to Shakespearean history, both his and the history in his plays. On January the 22nd, 1371, Robert II of Scotland was born. Robert is a 7th-generation ancestor of James VI of Scotland, who turned out to be James I of England, and if that wasn't enough, he is, according to legend, a descendant on his father's side of Fleance and Banquo from the play Macbeth. On January 23, 1976, American actor Paul Robeson died of complications from a stroke at the age of 77. His 1943 Broadway run of Othello is the longest-running production of the play starring an African-American to appear on Broadway, and was called by Michael Morrison the high point of Shakespeare in the 20th century. On January 24th, 1594, the first performance of Titus Andronicus took place, at least according to Philip Henslow's diary. On January 25th, 1533, Henry VIII married Anne Boleyn, his second wife. The machinations necessary for this to take place were also the root of the rise of the Church of England becoming the official national church. On January 26, 1992, Jose Ferrer, actor and director, died at the age of 80. He played Iago opposite Paul Robeson in what many considered to be the greatest 20th century production of Othello, and was most definitely the longest-running production of the play on Broadway in 1943. On January 27th, 1994, American Claude Atkins passed away at age 67. Though primarily known as a movie tough guy, he was theatrically trained and appeared in many Shakespeare plays early in his career, including The Comedy of Errors. On January 28th, 1547, Henry VIII died at the age of 55 at the Palace of Whitehall, succeeded by his only legitimate son, Edward, by Jane Seymour. Edward was 9 at the time, but Edward wouldn't make it to age 16. And that was your Week in Shakespeare, brought to you by the Bill Shakespeare Project. If you've enjoyed this news review, tell a friend and hit the subscribe button to keep from missing these news, reviews, and history videos. For our daily blog and previous Twiz episodes, including links to the news stories we've covered, as well as the real Bill Shakespeare Project podcast, check us out at thebillshakespeareproject.com. And we'll catch you next week. Shakespeareproject.com. And we'll catch you next week.